So today I'm going to show you how to take just a regular piece of, it's actually scrap wood, and make a vintage looking distressed farmhouse cutting board. Let's get started. So this is going to be what we would consider a primitive look, a primitive cutting board. So it has the look of age, use, wear, tear, the hand cut look for the profile, because 1800s, even earlier than that, they made these type of cutting boards, but they actually used hand saws to cut everything out. So that's the look that we're going for. So let me show you some distressing techniques to get this kind of look. Very few tools needed. The power tools were limited to a jigsaw, a drill just for this hole here, and a sander just for sanding up, smoothing the edges, things like that. We did use a couple of other tools like hatchets, machetes, things like that. Yes, torches. So, I mean, we're getting very creative with this one. Okay guys, so let's get to work. Again, scrap piece of poplar here. I'm just sketching this out onto my board. This particular board is about 8 inches wide. The great thing about this type of project is they do not have to be uniform. We're going for this rustic vintage look, so sketching it out freehand, and you do not even need a template. They did not have templates back then. Going for that look, we're going to try to replicate what they would have done 100 years ago, and that would have been this: freehand, sketch it out. Except they wouldn't be using a jigsaw to cut it out. They'd probably just be using a handsaw. And let me reiterate, for this type of a build, you do not want everything perfect. You actually want imperfections. So, happy little accidents. Love me some Bob Ross. That's what we want for this. Look how rough that looks. I mean, in most cases, I would not even show this to anyone. But for this case, for this look, for this era that we're trying to replicate, that is what you need. And look. I've got my spade bit stuck. So, proof happens to everybody. No worries, another happy little accident. Told you I love me some Bob Ross. So what I was attempting to do is just drill the hole that they would have used a long time ago, just to hang this up out of the way whenever they were not using this. So now with everything cut out, our hole drilled, it still looks really bad. Let's go ahead and get some sandpaper on this thing. And I know you're asking, why are we going to sand this thing down whenever our next step is actually going to be taking a lot of really rough tools to it. But we need to get these edges down. We need to get everything smoothed down to make it look like it has been used and worn on the edges. Much better, much smoother. Actually, way too smooth. Let's get to work with some hand tools. And I'm going to start out with a hatchet. I know I have an arsenal of tools that I actually use just for distressing, and you can get creative with this. The hatchet is just going to create a deep, deep cut, as if this board has been used 1,000 times over and over. And I'm going to be putting most of my focus towards the center of this board, because in cutting boards, that's typically where most of the chopping and cutting take place. Now we've moved on to our next fun little tool, a machete. Yes, I keep a machete in my shop just for distressing. This is going to replicate the knife marks. So the hatchet was going to be replicating like a meat cleaver type of a look, whereas the machete is more of a knife cut. And all of these deep cuts will actually take to the stain darker. So it's going to absorb more of that stain and actually give it that old look. And it just looks like a beat up board. So the true art in this is going to be the next type of techniques that you use. So I'm actually taking some burnt wood here. I'm going to sand this off, and it will actually get into those deep cuts that we made with the machete and the hatchet. Kind of like I was telling you earlier, it gets into those different grooves and darkens them up, making them kind of pop out. And since this piece is just going to be for decoration, I'm actually going to be using a stain on this. This will help to replicate that age as well. I'm using a Minwax brand stain called Early American, and this will actually soak up into those deep cut marks even more, making them darker, more pronounced. And now I'm going to sand this off a bit. The cut marks will remain dark as they've soaked it up. And then I'm going to do something that I like to call stain stacking. Now this is a stain called Weathered Oak. I'm just adding this on top and it's going to create just a bit of a different color. It's starting to come together as far as the markings and make those really pop out. But I really need to do something here to make the edges look like that it is worn. So back to a torch. I'm just going to burn the edges a bit. Now not too dark on this one. So with the edges burnt, I can actually blend this in and make it look like the center of this board is a more worn area than the rest. And for the finish on this, I actually just used some mineral oil that I had from my previous board. But for this, you can actually use a polyurethane because it's just a decorative piece. And there you have it. Piece of trash wood turned into a nice decoration. Hey guys, if you've enjoyed this video, make sure to follow for more, smash that subscribe button. I have plenty more of this stuff to come. Until next time, we'll see ya.